Maria and Peter visited their son Michael's grave every day, carrying fresh flowers and memories of the boy they had lost. Michael, their only child, had died in a tragic car accident at just 18 years old. The grief was unbearable, and the routine of tending to his resting place became their way of keeping him close. It was their ritual. Maria and Peter would walk hand in hand to his grave, lay their flowers, and sit for a while, sharing their thoughts with their son. But one day, their ritual was disrupted. As they approached Michael's tombstone, Maria paused, her brow furrowing. "Peter, look." A single red rose lay on the grave, vibrant and fresh. Neither of them had placed it there. "That wasn't here yesterday," Maria said softly, glancing around the quiet cemetery. Peter nodded, equally puzzled. The rose stood out starkly against the arrangement of flowers they had brought the previous day. Initially, they dismissed it as a random act of kindness. Perhaps a stranger, touched by the sight of Michael's grave, had left the rose. But when the same thing happened the next day, and the day after that, the mystery deepened. Every time the rose withered, a new one appeared, always a single red rose. Who could be doing this? Maria wondered aloud as they left the cemetery one afternoon. Peter didn't answer immediately, but the question lingered in his mind. Weeks passed, and the roses continued to appear. Their curiosity grew until Peter decided to take action. "I'll set up a camera," he suggested one evening. Maria hesitated. "Isn't that intrusive?" she asked. "It feels wrong." Peter sighed. "I just want to know, Maria. Whoever is doing this, they must have some connection to Michael. Don't you want to find out?" Reluctantly, Maria agreed. That night, Peter installed a small surveillance camera, carefully positioning it to capture the area around Michael's grave. He didn't tell Maria that he'd already bought the camera weeks earlier, anticipating her hesitation. Over the next few days, they continued their visits, pretending not to notice the camera. The roses kept appearing, but now there was hope that the mystery would soon be solved. The discovery. 2 weeks later, the cemetery superintendent called. "Mr. and Mrs. Harris, I'm sorry to bother you, but we've had a complaint about a camera near one of the graves," she said. "I've had to remove it." Maria's cheeks flushed. "I'm sorry, that was us." The superintendent's tone softened. "I've made a copy of the footage for you. I thought you might need it." She handed them a USB stick later that day, adding cryptically, "You should watch it." Back home, Peter and Maria stared at the small device on their kitchen table. "What if it changes how we remember Michael?" Maria whispered. Peter squeezed her hand. "We need to know." Finally, they plugged the USB stick into their laptop. The screen flickered as the footage began to play. At first, the cemetery appeared empty. Minutes passed, and they wondered if the camera had captured anything at all. Then, movement at the edge of the screen caught their attention. A figure dressed in black approached Michael's grave, holding a single red rose. The person moved with purpose, placing the rose gently on the tombstone before lingering for a moment. But the angle obscured their face. Peter rewound the footage, pausing at a clearer frame. Maria gasped. "It can't be," she said, her voice trembling. "That's Noah." Noah was their daughter, the one they hadn't seen in over a decade. She had left home as a teenager after a series of heated arguments. Over time, contact dwindled until it stopped altogether. They hadn't even known how to reach her. Maria's mind raced. Why didn't she tell us she was back? Why didn't she come to us? Peter's jaw tightened. We need to talk to her. The next day, they returned to the cemetery, hoping to catch Noah in person. Hours passed as they waited near Michael's grave, nerves fraying with each passing minute. Finally, a car pulled into the parking lot. They recognized her instantly, even from a distance. Noah stepped out, holding another red rose. As she approached the grave, her steps faltered. She had seen them. For a moment, all three stood frozen. Then Maria stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "Noah, she whispered. "It's you." Noah's eyes filled with tears, but she hesitated. Peter took a step closer, opening his arms. "Come here, sweetheart." The dam broke. Noah rushed into her father's embrace, sobbing. Maria joined them, wrapping her arms around her husband and daughter. For the first time in years, they were together. Back at their home, over cups of tea, Noah explained everything. She had been living out of state, ashamed to return after so many years. When she learned of Michael's death, guilt overwhelmed her. She hadn't even attended the funeral, convinced that her parents wouldn't want her there. "But I couldn't stay away," she said, her voice breaking. "I started coming to his grave, hoping it would bring me closer to him, and to you." Maria reached across the table, taking Noah's hand. "We never stopped loving you, not for a second." Peter nodded. "You're our daughter. We missed you every day." Noah wiped her tears, smiling faintly. "I've missed you too." The reunion marked a turning point for the family. Together, they began to heal. Noah joined Maria and Peter on their visits to Michael's grave, bringing her own flowers and sharing stories of her life during their years apart. The roses, once a symbol of mystery, became a testament to love and reconciliation. Though Michael was gone, his memory had brought them back together. The family vowed to honor him by cherishing the time they now had with each other. For the first time in years, Maria and Peter felt a sense of peace, and every day, as they stood by Michael's grave with Noah by their side, they knew they were no longer alone.